Some RPGs changed the industry, pushed the limits of storytelling, and redefined gameplay, yet they walked away empty-handed at the Game of the Year awards. Today, we're diving into 10 RPGs that deserve the title but never got the recognition they earned. If you've ever felt your favorite game was robbed, stay with me. This list might just prove you right. Dark Souls 3 arrived with massive expectations. After the mixed reception of Dark Souls 2, fans were eager for a return to form, and From Software delivered. The game refined the combat, introduced breathtaking environments, and wrapped up the trilogy with an epic conclusion. It was a massive success both critically and commercially, and many believed it had everything it took to claim the Game of the Year title. But when the awards season rolled around, something unexpected happened. From the moment Dark Souls 3 launched, it was clear this was more than just another entry in the series. Unlike its predecessors, which took time to gain widespread recognition, this game was an instant hit. It wasn't just hardcore fans diving in, new players were joining the experience, drawn in by the challenge, the lore, and the sheer scale of its world. It became a true mainstream success, proving that the Souls genre was no longer just for a niche audience. Yet, when the awards season arrived, it felt like none of that mattered. Despite its influence, Dark Souls 3 was treated as if it were still just another cult classic, overlooked in favor of safer, more traditional picks. At the Game Awards 2016, Dark Souls 3 was recognized in multiple categories, yet it was completely overlooked for the top prize. Even more baffling, it didn't win Best RPG either, losing out to the expansion Blood and Wine from The Witcher 3. Now, Blood and Wine is an exceptional DLC, no doubt. It expanded an already legendary game with a deep story and a massive new area to explore. But awarding a DLC over a full-fledged game as ambitious as Dark Souls 3? That decision sparked heated debates that continue to this day. And then there's the Game of the Year winner, Overwatch. Blizzard's team-based shooter was undeniably a cultural phenomenon, but comparing it to the depth, challenge, and impact of Dark Souls 3 felt unfair to many RPG fans. The fact that one of the most influential action RPGs of the decade walked away empty-handed still feels like a massive oversight. In 2012, the gaming world was certain that Mass Effect 3 would finally secure the long-overdue Game of the Year title. It was the epic conclusion to a trilogy that had revolutionized sci-fi storytelling in games, delivering a cinematic experience packed with player-driven choices, deep character arcs, and intense combat. Everything seemed to point to its victory, but against all odds, it lost to The Walking Dead, an episodic adventure game by Telltale that prioritized narrative over traditional gameplay. The Walking Dead was undeniably impactful, proving that emotional storytelling could rival even the biggest AAA productions. But for Mass Effect fans, the loss was a tough pill to swallow. The first game had been widely praised but overlooked in awards. The sequel, which refined everything and delivered one of the greatest sci-fi narratives in gaming, lost to Red Dead Redemption in 2010. Then, Mass Effect 3 came along with massive expectations. However, its ending became one of the most divisive in gaming history. Fans expected their choices across the trilogy to shape the final moments, but many felt the conclusion didn't reflect their decisions. The backlash was so intense that BioWare released an extended cut to add more context. Yet, despite this controversy, Mass Effect 3 was still a technical and storytelling masterpiece, featuring some of the most heartbreaking scenes like the final conversations with beloved squad mates and the emotional weight of the war against the Reapers. Still, it wasn't enough. The Walking Dead took home the biggest prize, shocking the industry and leaving at least this speaker once again in utter disbelief.
The area is clear.
Monster Hunter World arrived in 2018 and immediately took the gaming world by storm. Capcom's decision to overhaul the franchise with an open-world structure, seamless maps, and a refined combat system turned it into an instant hit. The game didn't just appeal to longtime fans, it brought in a massive new audience, making it the best-selling game in Capcom's history. Even today, its player base remains strong, a testament to its depth, replayability, and sheer addictiveness. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of Monster Hunter World was its seamless living ecosystem. Unlike previous entries, which relied on segmented areas with loading screens, this game introduced fully connected environments where monsters behaved like real creatures. They hunted, fought each other, and reacted dynamically to player actions, making every hunt feel unpredictable. It was also the first in the series to embrace a global multiplayer infrastructure, allowing players across different regions to team up for the first time. But 2018 was no ordinary year for gaming. Monster Hunter World had to compete against some of the most celebrated titles of the decade. God of War redefined storytelling in action games, while Red Dead Redemption 2 set a new standard for open-world realism. Spider-Man also made a huge impact, delivering one of the best superhero games ever made. With such strong contenders, Monster Hunter World had little chance of taking the top prize at the Game Awards, but many argue it still deserved more recognition.
Look!
In 2020, the gaming industry faced an unusual year. With the world in lockdown, the Game Awards had no live audience, making the ceremony feel different from anything before. Among the contenders for Game of the Year was Final Fantasy VII Remake, a title that carried massive expectations. As a reimagining of one of the most iconic RPGs ever made, it didn't just meet those expectations, it exceeded them. The game delivered breathtaking visuals, reworked combat, and a deeper narrative that expanded on the original in meaningful ways. But despite all that, Final Fantasy VII Remake was up against a juggernaut. The Last of Us Part 2 dominated the awards that year, sweeping category after category, including Game of the Year. It was a divisive title, but its impact on the industry was undeniable. Despite not winning Game of the Year, Final Fantasy VII Remake still made its mark at the Game Awards, securing the Best RPG award, a well-earned recognition for its bold reinvention of a genre-defining classic. It was also nominated in multiple major categories, including Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Score and Music, and Best Art Direction, proving that its impact extended beyond nostalgia.
You guys good to go? So as good as I'll ever be. You in for it.
Before we move on to the next game, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content and want to support the channel, consider using the affiliate links in the description. Any purchase you make after clicking, whether it's a game, a console, or even something completely unrelated, helps the channel at no extra cost to you. It's a simple way to show support while getting what you need. Now, let's get back to the list.
The Phantom Thieves will yield to no one, no matter who they are!
In 2017, the competition for Game of the Year was fierce, with some of the most impressive titles in gaming history battling for the top spot. Among them was Persona 5, a game that didn't just elevate its franchise but also pushed Atlus into the mainstream. Before this, Atlus was known mostly within niche RPG circles, but Persona 5 changed everything. Its bold art style, deep story, and refined gameplay captivated players worldwide, bringing the series unprecedented attention. At the Game Awards, Persona 5 was nominated in several categories, including Game of the Year. However, despite its impact, it ultimately lost to Breath of the Wild. Despite missing out on the Game of the Year title, Persona 5 didn't walk away empty-handed. At the Game Awards, it won Best RPG, beating strong contenders like Divinity Original Sin 2 and Nier Automata. But its success extended beyond just one event. Across multiple award shows, Persona 5 received praise for its stylish UI, incredible soundtrack, and deep storytelling. In Japan, it dominated the Famitsu Awards, winning Game of the Year and being recognized as a landmark RPG. The game also earned accolades at the BAFTA Games Awards, showcasing its global appeal.
There! You think you have the strength to protect the weak?
Metaphor Refantasio was one of the most anticipated RPGs of 2024. Developed by Studio Zero and published by Atlas, this game promised to redefine the genre with its unique mechanics and captivating world. Many believed it had a strong chance of winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards, given its deep storytelling, engaging combat, and innovative approach to player choice. However, despite high expectations and multiple award wins in other categories, it ultimately lost the top prize to Astrobot. Despite missing out on the top prize, Metaphor Refantasio didn't walk away empty-handed. It won multiple awards, including Best RPG and Best Art Direction, proving that its world-building and design stood out even among tough competition. The game's striking visual style, heavily inspired by medieval European fantasy with a distinct Atlas twist, was widely praised for its originality. Astrobot is an exceptional game in its own right, with outstanding gameplay and creativity that won over many players. But the decision sparked heated debates among fans about the event as a whole, ultimately proving once again how out of touch the so-called gaming media experts are with the average gamer, people like us. In what universe is Astrobot better than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor Refantasio? Only in the world of so-called industry specialists.
Dreamers like you are always the first to die. You think he's one of Luis's men? The villagers plead to be spared, but I know better than to confront a human.
You left one survivor!
Fallout 3 arrived in 2008, a year packed with massive gaming releases. Competing for attention in a landscape dominated by industry giants, this post-apocalyptic RPG had to go up against titles like Metal Gear Solid 4, which marked the dramatic conclusion of an iconic saga, and GTA 4, a juggernaut from Rockstar that redefined open-world storytelling. When Rockstar is in the game, victory is never easy for anyone. Despite the fierce competition, Fallout 3 delivered an immersive world, branching narratives, and deep RPG mechanics that set a new standard for the genre. It transformed the series from its isometric roots into a first-person experience, bringing the wasteland to life like never before. Players faced morally complex choices, unpredictable encounters, and a world that truly reacted to their decisions. Ultimately, GTA 4 took home the Game of the Year award, but Fallout 3 didn't walk away empty-handed. While it lost the biggest prize, it still secured the award for Best RPG, beating out strong contenders like Fable 2 and Persona 4. Nier Automata is one of those games that left a deep mark on the industry but never got the full recognition it deserved. Released in 2017, it blended fast-paced action, deep philosophical storytelling, and an emotional soundtrack to create an unforgettable experience. Yet, despite its brilliance, it wasn't even nominated for Game of the Year. That year, competition was fierce. Heavy hitters like Zelda Breath of the Wild and Persona 5 dominated the awards, while PUBG, a multiplayer phenomenon, took a nomination spot. Many questioned if Nier Automata should have been there instead.
Plant life has claimed most of the central area. Big plants, too.
Report. Records show that vegetation has grown to an abnormal size.
Final Fantasy XII was one of the biggest injustices in Game Award history. Back in 2006, before the event became what we know today as the Game Awards, the industry's biggest honors were still tied to Spike TV, a television network that held annual gaming ceremonies. That year, Final Fantasy XII was a major contender in several categories, earning recognition for its incredible soundtrack and being nominated for Best RPG. But somehow, it wasn't even considered for Game of the Year. Instead, the award went to The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion, another fantastic RPG that undeniably shaped the open-world genre. But the fact that Final Fantasy XII didn't even make the cut as a nominee was baffling. This wasn't just another entry in the long-running franchise, it was a groundbreaking title that redefined what a Final Fantasy game could be. It introduced a vast living world, an innovative gambit system that revolutionized party-based combat, and a deep political narrative that felt more like an epic saga than a traditional hero's journey. The omission of Final Fantasy XII from the top category raises a bigger question. How does a game so influential and ambitious get overlooked? Even if it had lost to Oblivion, at least being in the conversation would have been fair. But being left out entirely? That was a major snub, one that still sparks debate among RPG fans to this day.
This can't be.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was one of the biggest RPG releases of 2006, bringing a deeper combat system, a more mature story, and expanding the universe that Square Enix had started with the first game. Fans were eager to see where Sora's journey would go next, and the game delivered on almost every level. However, despite its critical and commercial success, it was completely ignored in the Game of the Year conversation. The competition that year was tough, with games like Oblivion dominating the RPG scene, but Kingdom Hearts 2 wasn't just another sequel. It was a defining moment for action RPGs. It refined the hack-and-slash mechanics of the original, introduced a more fluid battle system, and gave players some of the most memorable boss fights in the franchise. The emotional weight of the story, combined with its stunning visuals for the time, made it a standout title. Yet, when the awards season arrived, it wasn't even in the running for the top prize. It took everything that made the first game great and improved upon it in almost every way. The worlds were more detailed, the combat was more satisfying, and the game introduced drive forms, a mechanic that added a whole new layer of depth to battles. The narrative also pushed the franchise into a more complex and emotional direction, which resonated deeply with longtime fans. Looking back, it's surprising that Kingdom Hearts 2 and Final Fantasy XII didn't get the recognition it deserved. While it may not have walked away with a trophy, its legacy is undeniable. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think these RPGs deserved more recognition? Were there any games you believe should have been on this list? Drop a comment below. We read and respond to every comment, so let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.